Every morning began the same way. The sun crept over the quiet street, painting the pavement gold, while the house still smelled faintly of yesterday's coffee. The puppy sat at the front gate, small paws pressed into the dust, tail resting but alert. No leash, no command, just waiting. The human noticed it at first as something cute, almost routine. Puppies did strange things after all. But this morning, like all the mornings before it, the puppy refused to move. When called, it didn't turn its head. When coaxed with food, it didn't blink. Instead, its ears tilted forward, body stiffening, a soft whine slipping from its chest as its eyes stayed locked on the empty road. The human felt a strange tightening in their chest. "There's nothing there," they murmured, more to themselves than the dog. Yet the puppy's tail began to tremble. A small bark followed, sharp, urgent, nothing playful about it. Then another. The puppy pressed closer to the gate, pawing at the metal, whining as if begging the world to hurry. Concern replaced amusement. The human knelt beside the puppy, resting a hand on its back, feeling the rapid heartbeat beneath warm fur. "What is it?" they whispered. The street was silent. No cars, no footsteps, just the distant hum of a waking neighborhood. And yet the puppy refused to look away. Moments later, a figure appeared at the far end of the road, small, slow, uncertain. That's when everything finally made sense. Before we continue, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching dog stories. And tell me, where are you watching from? The morning arrived gently. Light slipped through the kitchen window in thin bands, landing on the counter, the sink, the quiet pile of mail. Outside, the street was still half asleep. No traffic yet. No voices. Just the distant hum of a city warming up. The puppy woke before anyone else. It always did. Small nails clicked softly against the floor as it padded down the hallway, tail low but relaxed, ears loose. It didn't run. Didn't rush. There was no excitement in its movement, only purpose. The front gate waited. Metal bars cool with night air. A familiar scent of dust, grass, and yesterday's breeze clung to it. The puppy sat down directly in front of it, just as it had every morning for weeks now, and waited. From the kitchen, the human noticed. First, it had seemed sweet. A habit. Puppies loved routines, loved doors and windows and whatever lay beyond them. The human sipped coffee, watching the small shape at the gate through the open doorway. "You're early again," they said quietly. The puppy didn't turn. Its posture was calm but alert. Back straight. Head lifted. Ears angled forward just enough to listen. The street outside was empty. A bird hopped along the sidewalk. Somewhere a sprinkler clicked on. Nothing unusual. The human shrugged it off. Morning routines moved forward. Toast, keys, the familiar sounds of getting ready. The puppy remained at the gate. Still. Patient. Too patient. When the food bowl hit the floor, there was no response. That was new. The puppy usually came running at that sound, sliding a little on the tile, tail whipping the air. Today, nothing. Not even a glance. The human frowned. They walked closer, crouching beside the puppy. Up close, they noticed the subtle things. The slight tension in the shoulders. The way the puppy's tail wasn't wagging. Not stiff, not tucked, just resting, ready. "What are you watching?" the human asked. No answer, of course, but the puppy's ears twitched. A sound too faint for human ears. Something far away. Something approaching. The puppy shifted its weight. Then it whined. Softly. Almost apologetically. The sound sent a small, unexpected chill through the human's chest. "It's okay," they said, resting a hand on the puppy's back. The fur was warm. The heartbeat underneath. Faster than usual. The puppy leaned into the touch but didn't look away from the gate. A bark followed. Short. Sharp. Not playful. The human straightened. "Hey," they said gently. "Easy." The puppy stood now, paws pressing closer to the bars. Its nose lifted, drawing in the air. Another whine escaped, longer this time. The street remained empty. No cars. No people. Just quiet. The human felt it then, that subtle shift in the air when something ordinary stops feeling ordinary. They checked the latch on the gate. Locked. Solid. There's nothing there, they murmured. But the puppy pawed at the metal once, twice, not scratching, pointing. The human exhaled slowly. All right, they said. All right. I see you. They sat down beside the puppy, back against the wall, both of them facing the street. The cool morning breeze brushed past. Somewhere nearby a door opened. A car started. Normal sounds. Minutes passed. The puppy didn't move. Its breathing slowed. Its focus didn't. The human watched the puppy instead of the road now. The way its ears adjusted millimeter by millimeter. The way its body leaned forward whenever a distant sound appeared. Then settled again. This wasn't fear. It was waiting. You've been doing this every morning, the human said quietly. What are you waiting for? The puppy's tail gave a single cautious wag. Then it froze. The human followed its gaze. First there was nothing. Then movement. Far down the street, just past the bend where the trees thickened, a small shape emerged. A figure walking slowly, unevenly, like it wasn't sure where it was going. The puppy stiffened. Its ears snapped fully forward. Its tail lifted, not high but steady. Another whine, this one trembling with urgency. The human leaned closer to the gate, squinting. A child. A boy. Small backpack hanging low on one shoulder. Shoes scuffing the pavement. Head down. The puppy barked again. Not loud. Insistent. Oh, the human whispered. The boy took a few more steps. Stopped. Looked around confused. He rubbed his face with his sleeve and took a shaky breath. The puppy pressed against the gate now, paw hooked through the bars as far as it could reach. The human's heart started to pound. This is what you've been doing, they said softly. Every morning. Waiting. The boy looked up. His eyes met the puppy's. And in that moment, the tension, the waiting, the quiet urgency of all those mornings finally clicked into place. The puppy wasn't guarding the house. It was watching the road. And it had been right to do so. The boy didn't come closer that morning. He stood there for a few seconds, just long enough for the puppy to tremble with restrained urgency, and then a car passed, slow and cautious, breaking the moment apart. The boy stepped back onto the curb, hesitated, then turned and walked on. Down the street. Out of sight. The puppy cried out. Not loud. Not panicked. Just a thin aching sound that seemed too big for its small chest. The human stayed still, hand tightening unconsciously against the gate. They watched the empty stretch of road long after the boy disappeared, half expecting him to come back into view. He didn't. It's okay, the human whispered, though the words didn't feel convincing. He's gone now. The puppy didn't sit, didn't lie down. It remained pressed to the gate, ears high, body leaning forward as if the street itself might pull him through. Minutes passed. The sun climbed higher. The neighborhood fully woke, doors opening, engines starting, distant voices drifting on the air. The normal rhythm of morning resumed around them, but the puppy stayed exactly where it was. When the human finally stood, the puppy resisted being guided away. It planted its paws, muscles tensing with surprising strength. Not aggressive, just determined. Hey, the human said gently, crouching again. You saw him. That's all. You did good. The puppy glanced up briefly, eyes dark, searching, then turned back to the road. That was when the human felt it. This wasn't curiosity, and it wasn't coincidence. The rest of the morning passed in fragments. The puppy ate only after the bowl was carried to the gate. Even then it chewed distractedly, lifting its head between bites, ears swiveling at every distant sound. When the gate was closed to keep the puppy inside, it paced. Slow circles. Nose brushing the floor. A low whine threading through the quiet house like a question no one could answer. The human watched from the couch, unease settling deeper with every lap. You're acting like you're waiting for someone, they said. The puppy stopped pacing, looked at them, then walked back to the gate and sat down again. That afternoon the human tried something different. They leashed the puppy and walked him down the street, following the same path where the boy had appeared. The puppy's posture changed the moment they stepped onto the sidewalk. Head low, nose working constantly, tail lifted just enough to signal focus. He pulled not hard but with purpose, as if retracing a memory. Halfway down the block the puppy stopped. Saturday. Wine. The human followed his gaze. Nothing there. Just a bus stop. A bench. A patch of grass worn thin by passing feet. He's not here, the human murmured. The puppy lowered his head, sniffed the ground, then turned back toward home without being prompted. That night the human barely slept. They kept seeing the boy's face, the way he'd rubbed his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped beneath the weight of that backpack. Too early. Too alone. Morning came again. And before the sun had fully risen, the puppy was at the gate. Waiting. This time the human joined him without hesitation. They sat side by side, wrapped in a quiet that felt heavier than before. The puppy's ears flicked. His tail tapped once against the ground. A distant footstep echoed. The puppy stood instantly. Heart racing, the human leaned forward. But it wasn't the boy. Just a jogger passing through, breath steady, eyes focused ahead. The puppy watched them go. Then sat again. Hours passed like that over the next few days. The puppy refused walks during the early mornings. Refused play. Refused rest. Every sunrise the same position. The same focus. The human tried reasoning with themselves. It's coincidence. He saw a kid once and fixated. Puppies do that. But instinct whispered something else. On the fourth morning the boy returned. Earlier than before. The puppy sensed him first. A sharp inhale, ears locking forward, body freezing mid-breath. The human felt it too this time. That subtle shift. The world narrowing. There, they whispered. The boy appeared at the bend, moving slower than before. His shoes were untied. One strap of his backpack hung loose. The puppy barked once, then whined, tail trembling in short, urgent arcs. The boy looked up. He stopped. For a moment neither moved. Then the boy took a step forward. The puppy surged against the gate, not panicked, not wild, just aching to close the distance. The human stood, heart hammering. Hey, they called softly, not wanting to scare him. The boy flinched. He hesitated, fingers gripping the strap of his bag. His eyes flicked to the house, then back to the puppy. He's been here, the boy said quietly. His voice was thin, unsure. Every morning. The human swallowed. Yes, they replied. He has. The boy nodded, as if that confirmed something he already knew. I walk this way to school, he said. Sometimes I'm early. The puppy whined again, softer now. Almost relieved. The boy stepped closer to the gate. The puppy sat, perfectly still, tail wagging once. Slow. Careful. He waits for you, the human said before they could stop themselves. The words hung between them. The boy's eyes filled just a little. I thought so, he whispered. The puppy leaned forward, pressing his nose gently through the bars, breath warm, steady. The boy reached out, hesitant, and touched the puppy's muzzle. The puppy exhaled. A long calming breath. As if the waiting finally had a face. But even in that quiet connection, something felt unfinished. The puppy stayed alert. Still watching. Still listening. Because instinct doesn't stop at recognition. It watches longer. It waits for what comes next. The human tried to make sense of it the way humans always do. With logic. With routines. With explanations that fit neatly into the day. They told themselves the puppy had simply grown attached. That he liked the boy because the boy was small, quiet, gentle. That this was a phase, a sweet one maybe, but nothing more than that. That belief lasted exactly one afternoon. The boy came again after school that day, walking slower than the other children, backpack slung low, shoes scuffed from dragging his feet. He stopped by the gate like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. The puppy was already waiting. He didn't bark this time. Didn't whine. He sat perfectly still, tail making soft, steady taps against the ground. His ears angled forward, then relaxed when the boy smiled, just slightly. Hey, the boy said. The puppy leaned closer. The human watched from the porch, arms folded loosely, heart unsettled in a way they couldn't name. The boy reached through the bars and scratched the puppy's chin. The puppy's eyes softened, half-lidding in relief. "You're early today," the human said. The boy shrugged. "Didn't want to go straight home." That should have been a simple sentence. It wasn't. The human nodded, choosing not to push. "You can say hi to him whenever you want," they said. "He seems to like you." The boy smiled more fully this time. The puppy did something then that shifted everything. He stood, turned his body slightly, and placed himself between the boy and the street. It was subtle, easy to miss, but the human saw it. The puppy's posture wasn't tense, just intentional. His head angled toward the road, his back toward the boy. Protective. The human cleared their throat. "All right, buddy," they said lightly. "That's enough for now." They opened the gate and guided the puppy inside. The puppy resisted, not forcefully, but enough to communicate displeasure. His tail dropped, his ears tilted back. The boy stepped away. "It's okay," he said quickly. "I should go anyway." The human smiled a little too fast. "Sure. See you around." The boy walked off. The puppy sat inside the gate, eyes fixed on the retreating figure, a low sound vibrating in his chest. Not a growl, not a bark. Something between a sigh and a protest. That night the puppy paced again. Back and forth, stopping only to press his nose against the front door, inhaling deeply as if the wood itself might carry answers. The human tried play, tried treats, tried commands the puppy knew well. Nothing worked. "This isn't healthy," the human muttered to themselves. They pulled out their phone and searched phrases they never thought they'd type. Dog fixated on stranger. Puppy waits at gate. Dog anxious about child. Most results said the same thing. Over-attachment. Protective instincts. Needs training. The human closed the phone, unease settling deeper. The next morning they decided to change the routine. No gate time. They kept the puppy inside until the sun was fully up, distracting him with toys, walks, breakfast. The puppy complied at first. Then the whining started. Soft. Persistent. He circled the house. Scratched lightly at the door. Saturday. Stood. Sat again. The human sighed and opened the door. The puppy bolted to the gate. And there he stayed. The boy appeared 10 minutes later. Earlier than usual. The puppy saw him first. Ears snapping forward. Body leaning so hard it almost lifted his back paws. His tail wagged once. Twice. The human felt a flicker of frustration. "This can't go on," they whispered. The boy waved shyly. "Hi." The human forced a smile. "Hi." The puppy whined, then did something new. He nudged the latch with his nose. Once. Twice. As if asking. "No," the human said gently. "Not today." The puppy froze. Then sat. Then lay down. Blocking the gate completely. The human stared. "What are you doing?" they asked, a laugh tugging at their voice despite the tension. The puppy didn't move. The boy shifted from foot to foot. "Did I do something wrong?" The question landed harder than it should have. "No," the human said quickly. "No, of course not." The puppy lifted his head and looked directly at the human. His eyes were steady, serious, as if waiting for permission that would never come. "I think," the human said slowly, unsure why their voice felt tight, "he just wants you safe." The boy frowned. Safe from what? The human didn't have an answer. They waved the boy on, watched him walk away, noticed how the puppy stayed frozen until the boy reached the corner, only then rising to follow the motion with his eyes. That afternoon the human received a call. The school. They listened quietly, nodding, heart sinking with every word. The boy had been late again. Frequently. Teachers were concerned. Walking alone. Arriving exhausted. The human thanked them and hung up. The house suddenly too quiet. They looked at the puppy. He sat near the door, ears tilted toward the street. Waiting. The human knelt in front of him. "You know something," they said softly. The puppy blinked. Once. then leaned forward and rested his head against the human's chest. A simple gesture, heavy with meaning. The human held him there, the realization slowly forming. They hadn't misunderstood the puppy. They had underestimated him. And whatever the puppy was sensing, it wasn't imaginary. It was unfolding. Just beyond the gate. The mornings began to feel longer. Not louder. Not busier. Just heavier. The human noticed it first in the way the air seemed to settle around the front gate. As if the house itself understood that something important happened there now. The gate was no longer just a boundary. It was a threshold. The puppy treated it that way. Every dawn, before alarms or coffee or thought, he was there. Sitting straight. Eyes forward. Tail low and steady. Ears constantly adjusting to sounds no one else could hear. Waiting. The human stopped trying to interrupt it. Instead, they adapted. Breakfast was moved closer to the door. Morning calls were taken from the porch. Shoes were slipped on quietly so as not to disturb the rhythm that had taken hold. The puppy noticed everything. He always did. If the human stood too quickly, he glanced back, checking. If a car slowed too much on the street, his body angled slightly toward the gate. If footsteps approached and then passed without stopping, his tail stilled, then resumed its patient sway. The boy's schedule was never exact. Some mornings he came early. Some mornings later. A few mornings not at all. Those were the hardest. On those days the puppy didn't bark. Didn't whine. He simply waited longer. Long enough that the human's chest began to ache with a strange, helpless pressure. Long enough that concern replaced curiosity entirely. One morning clouds hung low and gray, pressing the sky down until everything felt muted. The pavement was damp from overnight rain. The puppy's paws darkened where they touched the ground. The boy was late. Very late. The puppy sat unmoving for nearly an hour. The human crouched beside him, pulling their jacket tighter against the chill. "He's probably okay," they murmured, though the words felt hollow. The puppy didn't look at them. His ears were locked forward now. His body leaned just slightly, a posture the human had learned to recognize. Alert but controlled. Like a held breath. A sound drifted through the quiet. Not footsteps. A distant siren. The puppy stood instantly. His tail froze midair. His head lifted higher, nostrils flaring as he drew in the scent-laced air. He took one step closer to the gate, then another. "Hey," the human said softly. "It's far away." The puppy let out a low whine. The siren faded. Minutes passed. "No, boy." The puppy remained standing this time. He didn't sit back down. His muscles stayed engaged, as if resting no longer felt appropriate. That was the morning the human finally admitted it. This wasn't waiting anymore. It was vigilance. Later that day, the human spoke to the boy's teacher again. Asked questions they hadn't known how to ask before. Listened more than they spoke. The answers came slowly, carefully. The boy lived several blocks away. His parent worked nights. Mornings were complicated. When the call ended, the human sat in silence, the weight of it settling into their bones. Across the room, the puppy lifted his head. Their eyes met. "You already knew," the human whispered. The puppy's tail thumped once against the floor. That evening, the boy didn't stop by. The puppy paced for a while, then returned to the gate. Lay down. Head resting between his paws. Eyes still open. Waiting. The human brought a blanket and sat nearby, back against the wall, sharing the quiet. Streetlights flickered on. The sky darkened. Somewhere down the road, laughter echoed, distant, disconnected. "Do you get tired?" the human asked quietly. The puppy shifted closer, pressing his side against their leg. The next morning came cold and bright. The puppy was already at the gate when the human joined him, coffee steaming faintly in the chill air. The neighborhood felt sharper somehow. Sounds carried farther. The puppy's ears twitched. His body tensed. The human felt it too now, that subtle tightening, that narrowing of focus. "There," they breathed. The boy appeared sooner than expected, moving quickly this time, almost running. His backpack bounced awkwardly. One sleeve of his hoodie was damp, darkened as if from spilled water or rain. The puppy barked once. Urgent. The boy stumbled, nearly missing the curb. He stopped, bent forward, hands on his knees, breathing hard. The puppy whined, tail vibrating. The human opened the gate before thinking. The puppy didn't bolt. He walked out. Slowly. Carefully. He stopped a few feet from the boy and sat. Perfectly calm. The boy looked down at him, chest rising and falling too fast. His eyes were glassy, red around the edges. "I didn't mean to be late," he said, voice thin. The human approached, keeping their movements gentle. "You don't have to explain," they said. The boy swallowed. "He waits," he said, nodding at the puppy. "Every time I come around the corner, he's already looking." The puppy leaned forward slightly, ears relaxed now, posture softening as the boy's breathing slowed. That was the moment the waiting changed. It wasn't just the puppy anymore. The human was waiting too, watching the boy more closely now, noticing the small things, the way he favored one foot, the way he flinched at sudden sounds, the way relief crossed his face every time he saw the gate. The waiting grew heavier because it was no longer about what might happen. It was about what already was. An instinct, real instinct, doesn't shout. It stays. It waits. And it refuses to leave until someone listens. The road looked different once the human started paying attention. Not dangerous. Not dramatic. Just long. Longer than it should have been for a boy that age to walk alone every morning. The human stood at the gate after the boy left that day, watching his small figure move farther down the street, shrinking between parked cars and bare winter trees. The puppy stayed close, body angled toward the road, eyes tracking every step until the boy disappeared around the bend. Only then did he relax. Only then did he sit. The human exhaled slowly. That afternoon, they didn't wait for the boy to come back. They walked. Leash clipped loosely to the puppy's collar, pace unhurried, they followed the same route the boy took each morning. The puppy's behavior changed the moment they turned the corner. His nose dropped to the ground. His tail lifted slightly. His steps became deliberate. He wasn't pulling. He was mapping. They passed the bus stop where the puppy had paused days earlier. The bench was cold, metal damp from last night's rain. A single glove lay beneath it, small and worn thin at the fingers. The puppy stopped, sniffed, whined softly. The human's chest tightened. They continued on, noticing details they'd ignored before. The cracked sidewalk that forced the boy into the street for a few steps. The alley with no lights. The shortcut through a narrow strip of trees where the city noise faded too suddenly. "This is what you see," the human murmured. The puppy glanced back once, a brief check-in, then returned to his work. At the edge of the trees, the puppy slowed. His ears tilted. His body angled protectively closer to the human's leg. A memory surfaced then. The way the boy had flinched at sudden sounds. The way he arrived tired. The way relief washed over his face every time he reached the gate. The human felt it settle into place, heavy and unmistakable. This road wasn't unsafe because something had happened. It was unsafe because something could. And the puppy knew it. The next morning, the boy arrived later than usual. The puppy sensed him before the human did. A sudden stillness, ears snapping forward, tail lifting in that steady, focused way. He stood, body blocking the gate instinctively, as if bracing for something unseen. The boy came into view slowly. Too slowly. He walked with a slight limp now, favoring his right foot. His backpack strap was knotted awkwardly, as if repaired in a hurry. There was a faint scrape on his cheek. The human's breath caught. The puppy let out a low whine. The boy tried to smile. It didn't quite reach his eyes. "You okay?" the human asked gently. The boy hesitated. Shrugged. "I tripped," he said. The puppy stepped closer, nose lifting toward the scrape, sniffing carefully. His ears softened. His tail gave a small, reassuring wag. The boy relaxed a fraction. "I was running," he added. "Didn't want to be late." Something in his voice cracked just slightly. The human opened the gate. "Come sit for a minute," they said. You look exhausted. The boy hesitated again, eyes flicking toward the street, then nodded. The puppy walked beside him, close but not crowding, matching his pace perfectly. When the boy sat on the porch step, the puppy sat too, angled toward the road, still watching, protecting. They sat like that for a while. The air warmed as the sun climbed. A breeze carried the smell of damp leaves and distant traffic. The world felt ordinary again and somehow more fragile. My mom works nights, the boy said suddenly. The human didn't interrupt. She sleeps during the morning, he continued. I don't like waking her up. The puppy leaned his shoulder lightly against the boy's leg. The boy rested a hand on the puppy's head without looking down. I don't mind walking, he said. I just get tired. The human nodded, throat tight. That's a long walk for anyone, they said softly. The boy shrugged again. He makes it better. He nodded at the puppy. He's always here, the boy added. Even when I think I'm late. The puppy's tail tapped once against the porch. The human made a decision then. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the kind of decision that feels like listening. Why don't we walk together tomorrow, they said. Just for a bit. The boy looked up surprised. Really? Really, the human replied. If you want. The boy nodded quickly. Yeah, I'd like that. The next morning they did. The puppy led, leash loose, head high. The boy walked beside him, steps lighter, shoulders less hunched. The human stayed on the outside edge, closest to the street. They didn't rush. They talked about small things, school projects, favorite snacks, the puppy's habit of stealing socks. The puppy listened to it all, ears flicking back and forth, occasionally glancing up as if memorizing the sound of the boy's voice. Halfway down the road, a car slowed too much. The puppy stopped, stood still. The human noticed immediately, placing a hand gently on the leash. The car passed. Nothing happened, but the boy had stiffened. You okay? The human asked. The boy nodded. Yeah. The puppy waited a second longer, then walked on. When they reached the bus stop, the boy turned to them, eyes brighter than they'd ever been. See, he said. That wasn't bad. The human smiled. But the puppy didn't. He sat, looked back down the road they'd come from, waiting again. Because instinct isn't satisfied by one good morning. It watches patterns. It notices what people miss. And it understands something deeply human. Sometimes safety isn't about arriving. It's about being seen along the way. The rescue didn't happen all at once. There was no shout. No sudden danger rushing in from the edges of the world. It unfolded the way real things do. Quietly, unevenly. In pieces that only made sense once they were already behind them. It started with a morning that felt wrong. The puppy sensed it before the human woke. He rose from his bed and stood still in the hallway, ears angled forward, tail low but tense. The house was quiet, yet something in the air had shifted. A pressure, faint but unmistakable. At the gate he didn't sit. He stood, waiting but ready. When the human joined him, coffee still untouched, they felt it too. The street looked the same. The light was soft. The neighborhood was waking like always. But the boy wasn't there. Minutes passed. Then more. The puppy whined once, sharp and urgent, and paced a tight circle before returning to the gate. His posture had changed, shoulders raised, head lifting and lowering as if trying to catch a sound that refused to surface. He's late, the human said quietly. The puppy barked. Once. Then again. The human didn't try to calm him this time. They grabbed the leash. Let's go, they said. The puppy didn't pull. He led. Fast but controlled, paws striking the pavement with purpose. His nose worked constantly, drawing invisible lines through the air. At the corner he didn't hesitate. Turned down the longer route instead of the shortcut. The human followed without question. Halfway down the block the puppy slowed. His ears flattened slightly, then lifted again. His body angled toward the alley they'd passed before, the one without lights, the one the boy avoided when he could. The puppy stopped, whined, and sat. No, the human breathed. They moved closer. First there was nothing. Then a sound. A muffled sob. The puppy surged forward, leash tightening, pulling just enough to communicate urgency without panic. The human's heart slammed against their ribs as they stepped into the alley. The boy was there, sitting on the ground back against the wall, one knee pulled up to his chest. His backpack lay open beside him, books scattered, pages damp and curling. He looked small, smaller than usual. His face was streaked with tears he hadn't bothered wiping away. The puppy reached him first. He slowed instantly, approaching in a gentle arc, body low, movements soft. He sat in front of the boy and leaned forward just enough to press his forehead against the boy's knee. The boy broke. He bent forward and wrapped his arms around the puppy's neck, face buried in warm fur, shoulders shaking. "I tried," he sobbed. "I really tried." The human crouched nearby, keeping their voice calm despite the fear clawing up their throat. "Hey, you're okay. We've got you." The boy shook his head. "I fell. My foot. It hurts." The human looked closer. The ankle was swelling. Already. The puppy stayed perfectly still, letting the boy cling to him, eyes flicking up only once, checking in, asking silently. "All right," the human said. "We're going to take care of this." They moved carefully. Slowly. The human helped the boy stand, supporting his weight. The puppy walked on the injured side, shoulder brushing the boy's leg with every step, adjusting his pace instinctively. It took time, but they made it back to the house. The human called for help, explained, answered questions, wrapped the ankle as best they could while waiting. The boy sat on the couch, exhausted, eyes half closed, one hand still resting on the puppy's back. The puppy lay at his feet, head on his paws, ears angled toward every sound outside. Alert, calm. When the paramedic arrived, the puppy stood, placed himself closer, not blocking, not threatening, just present. "He's a good dog," the paramedic said softly. The boy nodded. "He saved me." The human didn't correct him. At the hospital, the lights were bright and clean and cold. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. The boy winced as his ankle was examined, tears slipping silently down his cheeks. The puppy lay beside the chair, chin on the boy's shoe, eyes never leaving his face. The diagnosis was simple. A bad sprain. Nothing broken. Relief washed through the room like a warm tide. The boy sagged back in his seat, finally allowing himself to breathe. "I didn't know what to do," he admitted quietly. "I thought I'd miss school again." The human knelt in front of him. "You did exactly what you needed to do," they said. "You waited." The boy smiled weakly. "So did he," he said, glancing down. The puppy's tail tapped once against the floor. That afternoon, arrangements were made. Phone calls. Conversations that should have happened sooner but hadn't. The boy wouldn't be walking alone anymore. Not for a while. As they left the hospital, the boy paused in the doorway and looked back at the puppy. "You didn't leave," he said. The puppy looked up at him. Ears relaxed. Eyes soft. He hadn't needed to. Because sometimes rescue doesn't look like pulling someone from danger at the last second. Sometimes it looks like staying, waiting, and refusing to look away until someone listens. Healing didn't arrive all at once. It came in quieter ways, in smaller moments that didn't announce themselves, but slowly reshaped the mornings, the house, the road beyond the gate. The boy stayed home for a while after the hospital visit. Few weeks, the doctor said. No long walks. No rushing. The human helped arrange things, calls to the school, a temporary bus stop closer to the house, check-ins that felt overdue but necessary. The boy's mother came by one evening, eyes tired but grateful, voice thick when she spoke. "I didn't know," she said more than once. "I really didn't know." The puppy sat between them the entire time, not intruding, just present. When the boy came over during the days, moving carefully on his healing ankle, the puppy adjusted without being told. His energy softened. His movements slowed. He lay close enough that the boy could reach him without shifting too much. They spent hours like that. The boy on the couch, The puppy on the floor, head resting against the boy's foot. The human nearby, pretending to read, listening to the rhythm of shared breathing. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. The silence felt different now. Not heavy, not waiting for something bad to happen. Just calm. Earned. One afternoon, rain tapped softly against the windows. The house smelled like clean air and old books. The boy traced idle patterns in the puppy's fur. Fingers slow, careful. "He used to scare me," the boy said suddenly. The human looked up. "Who?" "The road," he said. "When it was dark. Or quiet." The puppy's ears flicked, but he didn't lift his head. "I felt like no one would know if something happened," the boy continued. "Like I was invisible." The human swallowed. "You weren't," they said. "You aren't." The boy nodded, eyes fixed on the puppy. He knew. The puppy's tail moved once. That night the human noticed something new. The puppy didn't pace. He didn't return to the gate after dinner. He lay on his bed instead, eyes half closed, breathing deep and even. The vigilance was easing, not disappearing, but softening. As days passed, the boy grew stronger. His limp faded. His laughter returned, tentative at first, then freer. He talked more about school, about friends, about small worries that felt manageable now. And the puppy changed too. He still woke early, still visited the gate, but he didn't stay as long. He would sit for a few minutes, ears scanning, then glance back at the house, checking in before padding away to nap in a patch of sunlight. The human noticed. "You trust us now," they murmured one morning. The puppy's tail wagged once. When the boy finally returned to school, the walk was different. They didn't rush. The human walked on one side, the puppy on the other. The boy between them, backpack snug, steps steady. At the bus stop, the puppy sat, watched, waited. But there was no tension in his body now, no tightness in his chest, just awareness, calm and balanced. The bus arrived. The boy climbed aboard, then turned back. "See you tomorrow," he said, smiling. The puppy wagged. The bus pulled away. The puppy didn't whine. He didn't bark. He stayed seated, eyes following until the bus disappeared. Then he stood, shook himself lightly, and turned back toward home. The human felt something loosen inside their chest. That afternoon, they sat together on the porch again. The puppy stretched out at their feet, paws twitching in sleep. The gate stood open. Open. For the first time in weeks. The human realized then that healing wasn't just about safety or schedules or solutions. It was about trust. The boy trusted that someone would notice now. The human trusted what instinct looked like when it came wrapped in fur. And the puppy trusted that his work, his quiet, patient watching, had been enough. The road beyond the gate hadn't changed, but the way they faced it had. Together. And sometimes that's all healing really is. Not erasing what hurt, but standing close enough that it no longer hurts alone. The mornings found their rhythm again. Not the old one. Not the quiet, unknowing routine from before, but something gentler. Intentional. A rhythm shaped by awareness. The puppy still woke early. That never changed. But now when his paws touched the floor and he padded down the hallway, there was ease in his movement. No tightness in his shoulders. No urgency pulling him forward. At the gate he sat. Looked out. Listened. The street greeted him with ordinary sounds. A delivery truck in the distance. A neighbor's door. Birds arguing over the same branch they always fought for. He stayed a moment. Then he turned back toward the house. That was new. The human noticed it one morning while pouring coffee. The puppy glanced back, eyes soft, tail giving a small satisfied wag. "You're done," the human said quietly. The puppy walked over and leaned into their leg. The boy came by later that morning. Not early. Not late. Right on time. He walked with confidence now, backpack sitting properly on both shoulders, shoes tied tight. When he reached the gate, he didn't hesitate or hover. He waved. The puppy wagged back. They talked for a few minutes about a spelling test, about a science project involving cardboard and tape. The puppy listened, head tilting at familiar words, tail sweeping the ground. Then the boy stepped back. "I'll see you after school," he said. The puppy sat, watched him go, and then, without ceremony, stood and followed the human back inside. The gate stayed open. Weeks passed like that. The human realized slowly that the gate no longer carried weight. It was just a gate again. A piece of metal. A boundary, yes, but no longer a vigil. The road beyond it still stretched long. Still imperfect. Still filled with small risks and quiet uncertainties. But it no longer felt unseen. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the street amber, the human found themselves sitting on the porch steps, the puppy stretched out beside them. The air smelled like warm pavement and distant dinners. "You changed us," the human murmured. The puppy's ear flicked. "You changed him," they continued. "And you changed me." The puppy rolled onto his side, exposing his belly in a gesture of complete trust. The human laughed softly and scratched his chest, feeling the steady, calm heartbeat beneath their hand. The boy arrived a little later than usual that day. He didn't come alone. His mother walked beside him, posture straighter now, eyes more awake. She smiled when she saw the puppy. "I wanted to thank you again," she said. "Both of you." The puppy stood and wagged, polite but not frantic. "He doesn't wait anymore," she added, glancing at the gate. "I noticed." The human nodded. "He knows." The boy crouched and hugged the puppy tightly. Not desperately, not clinging, just affectionate. The puppy leaned into it, eyes closing briefly. "I still like that he was there," the boy said. "Even when I don't need it." The puppy licked his cheek once. That night, the human dreamed of the road. Not empty. Not frightening. Just stretching forward under soft morning light, carrying footsteps that were no longer lonely. The next morning the puppy slept in. Only by a few minutes. But it mattered. When he finally rose, he walked to the gate, sat, looked out, and then turned back almost immediately. The humans smiled. "Good," they said. They left the house together later that morning, the human, the puppy, the boy, walking a short way down the street before splitting off in different directions. No tension. No urgency. Just connection. The puppy paused once, glancing back at the gate. Then forward again. He walked on. Because the bond he'd formed wasn't tied to a place. It was written into moments. Into mornings shared quietly. Into trust built without words. Into the simple truth that someone was paying attention. Some bonds are loud. They announce themselves. Others are made the way this one was, patiently, instinctively, through waiting and watching and staying long enough for someone else to feel less alone. The puppy no longer waited at the gate every morning. But the bond he built there remained. In every step the boy took with confidence. In every morning the human noticed the world a little more closely. In every quiet moment when instinct and care met without needing to be explained. And if you looked closely on certain mornings when the light was just right, you could still see it. Not a puppy waiting, but a heart that once chose to stay. And, in doing so, taught everyone around it how to move forward together.